I've been interested in some of the different ways to add immersion to VR recently, and I've made a few videos on the Woojer Haptic Vest, as well as hopefully covering a few other devices in the coming months. But one of the things I mentioned in some of my Woojer videos, and something I also received several comments on actually, was on chair transducers or shakers, which can offer another way of increasing immersion in certain VR titles, seated VR titles basically. I decided to reach out to Buttkicker, one of the companies making chair shakers and transducers to enhance the gaming experience, and they agreed to send me the Gamer Plus model in order to give a few impressions, and that's what I intend to do on this video, so let's get into it.
Immersed robot.
The Gamer Plus is a sort of mid-tier product in the Buttkicker lineup. There is also the Gamer Pro, which provides more power for larger rigs, but the Gamer Plus comes with the transducer itself, all the necessary cables to connect it to your PC or console, as well as an amplifier to feed the signal. Further to this, you also get access to the standard version of Buttkicker's own Hapticonnect software, which when paired with gaming plugins purchased separately, you can feed specific telemetry to the amp, gaming telemetry to the amplifier from the PC using a USB cable in order to get a more refined experience. Alternatively, you can also connect a 3.5mm jack from the PC with the audio splitter provided in order for the amp to simply convert standard gaming sounds into the vibrations to the chair. The transducer itself can be attached to most standard gaming or office chairs with the included bracket, which fixes firmly to the main stem of the chair. I've also been told that you can attach it quite effectively to most other types of racing setups as well without any issues at all. It comes with a single quick release cable from the transducer, which then connects into the amplifier, which is probably a good feature if you've got this going across the floor to your chair wherever you're gaming, and it could cause some kind of trip hazard or something like that. The first title I went into with the Buttkicker was, no surprises, Elite Dangerous, which didn't have a specific plugin through the Hapticonnect software, and I had to rely on the audio from the game to provide the haptic feedback vibrations. But the experience was very good and possibly felt a little bit more immersive than when playing solely with the Woojer Vest, although I definitely noticed quite a bit of noise in my first few sessions with the Buttkicker. With chair transducers like this, the noise is mostly unavoidable and something you should probably just be aware of before considering it, but I felt like my chair was rattling more than it should, so I managed to fit a couple of foam pads into the chair height adjustment lever, which seemed to stop the rattling for the most part. This was probably just a problem with my own chair really, and it was still loud after doing this, but much more manageable and much more reasonable noise level really. But flying around in Elite, using the boost and using the frameshift drive to jump between systems, as well as descending onto a planet's surface, was all a great experience, with the extra rumbling vibrations as the game audio simulated various engine states of the ship. And you can control all of this as well as tuning the experience through the various settings on the amplifier, and I found I had to reduce the vibrations quite a bit in order to find the correct balance, so there was plenty of headroom, at least in my case, for those who need it, those who need to ramp it up a little bit more. But then I went in and tried Project Cars 2, which does have a plugin for the Hapticonnect software and can then provide a more realistic level of feedback. I purchased the plugin for a small fee, around £4, although some titles were cheaper than this, and you can also pick up various bundles for racing sims or flight sims. The Ultimate Bundle, which includes plugins for all the current compatible games, is $60, but probably worth it if you do sort of jump between a good range of simulation-based titles. But back to Project Cars 2, I altered a single setting in the game as instructed by the Hapticonnect software, and then I was away. Within the software, you can refine your experience further, altering the amount of feedback in certain situations, such as collisions, rumble strips, simulated road texture, and stuff like that. So I altered a few things and then jumped into a quick practice race. And there was certainly more subtlety in the feedback I was getting than in something like Elite, which was only relying on the game audio, as I've mentioned. You can tell pretty easily the difference between these two experiences, and it definitely made a big impact overall. I'm not really a huge racing sim enthusiast, but for those who are heavily invested in sim racing games and setups, then I can easily understand how this would be a pretty big improvement to your overall experience. Providing extra sensory markers for cornering and stuff like that, it's not a surprise that most of the plugins available are really directed towards racing games, although certainly flight sims are represented in there too, which leads me on to my next experience. I'd probably say Microsoft Flight Simulator was my favourite title when used in conjunction with the Buttkicker, at least so far of the ones that I've tried. I recorded a quick video of my first time in there with the extra feedback through the Hapticonnect software, and I'll probably publish that in a day or two just to show clearly my experience, my first impressions with that. But the difference in sensation you can glean from a single transducer fitted to your chair coupled with the suitable software is actually really impressive. The subtleties in the engine variations on the small plane that I was flying at that time is represented really accurately, and there's no doubt in my mind that this adds in some cases significant immersion to Microsoft Flight Simulator. And I'm thinking really of sort of smaller planes when I think of this, those smaller planes that you fly and you get all of the vibrations from the engine as you make different maneuvers. It really works well with this. And as I mentioned, I did record a quick video on that with commentary, which I'll upload in a few days. Now, I don't really have too many complaints about the Buttkicker Gamer Plus, other than the unavoidable noise, which is just a necessary byproduct of how these things work, unfortunately. And possibly the other thing is that the library of games which is included in the Hapticonnect software and which is available on the Hapticonnect software to provide that direct integration with the Buttkicker, to give that level of feedback that I think is very important when using this device actually. I would like that library to be larger, although looking through that list I can't actually think of too many big sim titles that are missing really. I guess I'm really thinking of Elite Dangerous. That's what I would really like to use in conjunction with that in a way which works better than just using the game audio, and yeah, that's something that I might look into. But there is the issue of price on this as well. Now, in the US it is $280, which seems like a reasonable deal actually, although probably slightly higher than would be perfect in my opinion. You know, $50 lower would probably be a good price for me. Although I can appreciate that true sim racers or really hardcore flight simmers would get a hell of a lot of use out of this device, so I could probably be persuaded on that. However, in the UK it seems the best place to purchase this is from a third-party seller, where I've seen the price for around £350, £360 including VAT. Now of course in the US the price doesn't include any taxes, so there isn't actually a huge difference in price when taking that into consideration. However, I would really love to thoroughly recommend this device as a way to add sometimes pretty significant immersion to various titles, and if it was just that £50, £75 cheaper, then I think I could do that much more readily. Now when you compare this device to something like the Woojer Vest, £610, it's much more within the price range I would expect, but just not perhaps quite as low as I would like. However, both the Buttkicker transducer and the amp feel rock solid, and like they'd last forever honestly, so I'd expect these to last a very long time and that you'd be able to use these for many years through various VR generations really. Now I can't predict the future, but that's my best guess, and only time will tell on that if that actually is the case or not. One final thing to mention with this device is the element of friction as well. Lower friction, especially when using a VR headset in conjunction with various devices, is always preferable of course. And although there is some setting up initially, the actual friction of jumping into a game with the Buttkicker once you've got that initial setup out of the way is really quite minimal, which is definitely important for me, and I find myself that I will use this far more because of that really. Now I'm going to look in a little deeper for plugins or some third-party software that I can use in conjunction with this device in order to get some telemetry from Elite Dangerous if that's even available, because I think I'd get more use out of it than sim racers, although I will say flight sims are really good with this as well, and I think I will use it for Microsoft Flight Simulator quite a bit. But I'll mention again, if your main use is sim racing or flight simulators, then I think you'd be able to more readily accept the price tag to enhance not only the experience and immersion, but also increasing the sensory feedback to potentially allow better performance in sim racing, for example. But overall, I think the device is a rock solid product, albeit one that requires a specific type of gamer or simmer to take full advantage of what it's offering. But that's it, those are a few of my thoughts anyway. Let me know what you think in comments, and please look out for my full Microsoft Flight Simulator video in a few days where I'll give a few of my first impressions using the Buttkicker in that particular title. But thanks for watching this one anyway, and I'll see you next time.